welcome back. I'm so excited to get started. We are going to start our series on the Irresistible paint line. So thank you, Esther, for sponsoring us for today's episode. For you guys at home that are going to be following along, if you want to use the same kit that I'm going to be using, great. If not, you can use your own, whatever you want to do. Or if you just want to hang out and listen and hear how I'm going to be painting, welcome, and I appreciate you watching. For this series, I'm going to be using Christopher, Bountiful Baby, Realborn. And for those of you that aren't quite sure of the difference between a Realborn versus a sculpt, Realborns are created by doing 3D scanning of an actual baby. So they're not like a sculpt would be. They're still very nice kits, especially if you're a beginner and you're just wanting to get into this. Bountiful Baby has some amazing kits available online that you can score for really cheap to get you going. All right, so that's the kit we're going to be using today. The Irresistibles line that we're going to be working with, the first thing that I'm going to do, and I'm doing things a little bit different than I normally do because I want to show you everything about the Irresistible line. So the first thing is you're going to take, and I've already done this step, so you're going to use some cotton balls or cotton swabs, whatever you want to do. Apply a layer of rubbing alcohol just to clean the kit. I'm so used to not cleaning the kit when it comes to like Genesis, but because we're using a whole new line, I'm going to follow it exactly according to the recommendations so you can see exactly what the results will be. Clean your kit very well. After you clean your kit, the next step would be entirely up to you whether or not you want to move on to this step or not. I like to open the nose holes. You can kind of see how they are there. Let's see if I can get it in the camera view. It's kind of hard to see. I open the nose holes, and I've been hearing a lot about people opening the ears, so I decided that I'm going to open the ears as well. Now, I know that you guys are like, oh my God, you're going to see this hole in the baby's head when it's all done. Actually, what we're going to do to disguise these holes and create depth is by gluing in a little bit of purple felt behind those holes. It's going to add a little bit more depth and dimension versus just how paints can achieve that. That would be your next step, which I had already gone ahead and done. For you guys that we are going to get started with for our very first step on our Irresistibles line, we are going to prime our kit. Do you have to prime your kit? No, not necessarily, but it is recommended, especially nowadays with the kits coming and you might have little pinholes, especially like around the hands or the feet. I've noticed what the primer does, it's going to help even out that vinyl so that way your paint goes on much more smooth and you won't notice those blemishes or flaws like you would have had you not used a primer. I wanted to show you something that I had come across, just something to be mindful of, because every line you got to kind of adjust your technique to be able to accommodate the new type of paint it is. You can't tell right now because I literally just put a layer down, but it's just having been flashed. So you can see kind of it's still wet through here, but then in the back here where it's flashed, it looks almost a little chalky. If that ever had happened, I would take my dry brush and I would just pounce over those areas with my dry brush to get rid of any of that excess chalkiness. My personal opinion is that because I'm using the liquid thin, it's more of the way that paint behaves. So I would recommend baking after having put that layer down. What I had noticed when I had baked another doll, when it was like this, it ended up leaving that chalkiness and I had a hard time removing it. And because of this chalkiness, I had gone through and I had applied a little bit of my regular thinner, and this is the Mona Lisa thinner. Some people use the Bob Ross. I think there was, I can't remember the other one. There's a really lovely one that Esther recommends. I gotta remember what that one is, but I'll look it up and let you know. And then I had gone right over the entire limb with this cosmetic wedge that has lightly been doused with our thinner just to take off any of that excess and do a second application. It's just interesting. I love this line. I love this line. But it's definitely something you have to practice and get used to because it behaves differently. That's taken a little bit of getting used to. So I'm going to let that flash off a little bit. Here is the limb that I had done one layer of our thinner, and then I had reapplied our pigment, building up that coloring. Just food for thought. Some things that I've noticed that you might want to be mindful of. So practice, play around. I would get used to them on a spare kit that you might have, and then once you're comfortable and you figure out these little quirks that might happen that you're not used to, then you'll be able to adapt a lot easier. It's a learning curve. So yesterday, after I had experienced the white chalkiness, we were able to take care or remedy that situation by using our thinner on a cosmetic wedge, lightly going over that limb, removing any of that chalkiness. After having done so, we had went ahead and let that flash off, and then I baked that. So I just wanted to show you the results afterwards. Very, very nice. And what I ended up doing is I ended up thinning out the mixture even more. And when I had talked to Esther, because I had called her yesterday to talk to her about what her input was, what we had discussed was that basically when we're using our liquid thin, less is going to be more. Sometimes if you use too much of the liquid thin, you have to bake it even longer or it won't cure good enough. So going forward, it was a great learning experience. I wanted to share that with you so that you can see that when these situations happen, it happens to everyone. We're not perfect, and it's all a learning situation. And the other thing that I did to help fix that situation after having gone over it with the thinner and the cosmetic wedge, I had applied our primer, the Irresistibles Primer. Now, I gotta tell you, this primer is absolutely underrated, amazing product. So we are going to prime Christopher. Christopher, first of all, has been cleaned using cotton swabs and rubbing alcohol, making sure that it's nice and clean. I did open the nose holes and the ears like we talked about earlier. I'm very curious to see how this is going to look with the open ears too, by the way. Why not give it a try? This is the time that we're going to be practicing and learning new techniques. Hopefully you guys will learn something as well. With the primer, like I said, it helps give the vinyl some texture so that the paint can adhere evenly and fill any flaws in the vinyl or small little pinholes that it might have. Build that in real nicely so that we've got a nice clean slate. When you're using your primer, you want to brush that primer on, and then once you're done brushing it on, you're going to pounce it really, really well. All right, with the Irresistible Primer, more thinner consistency. It's like almost a yogurt, maybe a little thinner than a yogurt, but very, very thin. You don't have to stir it if you don't want to. It's really not going to make a difference for the primer. The key is making sure that you're using small amounts. If you use too much of it, making it feel kind of tacky. So start with small amounts. I have my dedicated brush. This one is just my mop brush. This is an oval mop brush, so a 3/4 inch. And I want to show you how much I was using. Also, you're gonna need cosmetic wedges. With these cosmetic wedges, I'm gonna show you. These are some wedges that I had gotten from Irresistibles. I really like these. These are the latex-free wedges. However, Esther has some amazing sponges that are the jumbo sponges. So I'll be getting those in soon so I can show you what those look like. And those are even better when you're applying your mediums. For now, this is what we're gonna use. With you guys at home, what I like to do when I'm pouncing, doesn't matter what layer I'm working with, I don't ever use a flat surface. It leaves kind of a weird square print to it. So I will always tear off the top and have more of this textured surface to work with. We're gonna start fresh. I'm gonna show you. Just literally tear that top off. I don't throw these away. I save these because they're great for getting into small areas or if you just need to touch up something real quick. So hang on to these. These are good. they're still good. Going back to our primer. I'm going to pick up our primer at about yay, and then I'm going to start with the back of the head, and I'm going to just drag this primer on. Like I said, very small amount. You don't need a lot. And I am going to just keep working that product, making sure you're covering every area, inside the ears, inside the nose, around the ears. Get in there. Make sure we get it in there good. Get in this area. Okay, I'm going to get a little more here. Okay, now dragging that forward, just slowly working our way towards the front of the face. You're going to go over the lips as well. Primer is everything. Just remember, that's what it is. It's a primer. It's going to be your very first layer with your paint, making everything else sit very nicely and have a beautiful finish when we're done. So you can see with those two little bit of brush loads, I was able to do the entire head. So I would say in all, it took me like a half a brush load, a quarter for each the front and a quarter for the back to be able to do the whole head. And I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything, working it in really good. I will do the flange area, as I always make sure that I get that area painted, get in each of those crevices really good. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm just going to set this aside. Then you're going to take your cosmetic wedge, and this is where you're just going to start pouncing. I'm going to pounce out that primer. So see how it kind of has those brush marks, and where here it's nice and soft after we pounced it out. That's what the goal is you want to get rid of any of the brush marks that may have happened when you were applying it. Don't worry about the small areas. We'll go back to those and I'll show you what we're going to do with that in a minute. But for now, we're going to go over the whole head in the same manner. Pounce, pounce, pounce. You want to make sure that you're pouncing to the point where it's no longer real shiny, but it has more of a dull kind of appearance to it. Then you know that you've pounced it very well. And I will keep turning it and letting the light bounce off of it so that I can double check that I didn't miss any areas. So hopefully you guys are excited and that you're learning something already. This is going to be a fun journey, sharing this line with you and testing the limits and seeing what we can accomplish with it. I'm excited. Okay, I'm just going to keep pouncing, keep turning the kit, making sure I get everything. It's looking good. Get in those creases. Get behind the ear here. Okay, now I'm going to take my dry brush and I'm going to get inside these crevices of the ear and around the eye, back of the ear. Any of the creases, I'll go over that, making sure that the product's worked in really good. Over the lips, the nose, over the bridge of the nose. Okay, that looks pretty good. The other thing that you want to have handy, because sometimes when your kits are sitting out flashing or waiting to be baked, it can sometimes have dust settle on it. So I always keep tweezers nearby, and I keep the real pointy ones, so that way if I notice something had gotten on the kit, maybe a little hair or a little fleck of something, I can easily take that off. That looks really good. I'm just hitting the light. See, like here you can see that there's like a little tiny hair here. And then I'm just gonna hit it again. There. All right, that looks good. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go on to the rest of the limbs. So for you guys at home, your homework would be to do all of the limbs, arms, legs in the same exact manner. After you have gotten everything applied and pounced really, really well, you're gonna preheat your oven to 265 degrees, and you're gonna wanna bake that for about 10 to 15 minutes. Make sure you have an oven thermometer in your oven, because I can tell you, like with my oven, I have to set one oven at 215 degrees for it to reach 265 degrees. And then as you're baking, don't walk away. Stay with your oven, keep an eye on it, watch the thermometer, because my oven will fluctuate. So sometimes it will creep up past that 265. So then I gotta bring down the temperature a degree or two, or it gets too cool and then I got to bring it back up a degree or two. You want to keep it at that consistent 265 for the entire baking time. If you notice once you take out the limb and it's still really, really soft and tacky and maybe a little bit shiny, bake it for a little bit more. But you want to make sure you don't heat above 350 degrees, because then you're going to risk melting your kit. Just like Genesis or most of the heat set lines, 265 is the golden number. All right, so I'm super excited for our next step, and I appreciate you guys watching, all of your support, and make sure you comment your suggestions, or if you've got questions, let me know. Share your video. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do so you can get notified when we post our next videos. I will see you guys for step 2. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you soon.